Isreal Adesanya taking on the soldier of God, Yoel Romero. Adesanya said the fight is done. I literally just got to the gym now. I'm about to get some work in. Make no mistake, I'm still putting in the work. I'm still getting ready for my second title defense against a veteran in the game, a veteran in the wrestling, a tough motherfucker, the bogeyman of the division, the guy no one calls out except Stylebender. The fight will happen, and it will happen on our terms as well. I'm happy. I have no doubt that I'm going to get what I want out of this fight. Okay. Few things there. The third person shit's got to stop, and it's not your second time. I love Isreal. He's awesome. I hung out with him at the fight recently. Great guy. A lot of fun. Fantastic fighter. Unbelievable. But it ain't your second title defense. You won the interim. I get it. Listen, in his mind, he had a belt put around his waist. I get it. And fair play. And I'm just having fun for the sake of it. But in my mind, and we always said this, the interim title fight is solidifying you yourself as the number one contender. But whatever. That's neither here or there. I'm being a picky little asshole there. What do you think of the fight, Lewis? It's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a great fight. Yeah, look, Yoel's a monster. And it's just no matter what, you put him across from anybody, it's just... He has that factor. He can knock you out. He can out-wrestle you. It's a scary fight for anyone. Adesanya, he has this belief in himself that, it reminds me of Jon Jones. He believes that he's sort of like above everybody else. And I think in order to reach that level of greatness, you sort of have to have that level of belief in yourself. So I know it's douchey when he talks about himself in third person. And I know it's douchey when he sort of has this like air of like, well, I am fucking, but...
I was joking.
I know you hate him. Look, it's fine. You don't like Isreal Adesanya.
He's got my title. No. I think the guy's fucking awesome. I'm just looking at Yoel Romero's record. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Not at all. But I'm just saying, like, I give certain guys, I give them a little bit of a break, especially in a fight like a sport like fighting, where it's like, almost like, dude, the mind-body connection, that belief in your ability, that is the difference sometimes when it is a game of centimeters, when it's like anybody can get knocked out, anybody could win when fighters are so closely stacked that might be all the difference in the world, is sort of believing that you're above every other human being and you have this direct relationship with God. So whereas I think it sucks, I would never sort of say those things, and it's cringy for me. I give certain guys a pass, including Isreal, Jon Jones, all these guys that sort of like, they do that thing.
Well, you have to. In this game, if you're not out there speaking like that, now, of course, not everybody does, but... a lot of legendary fighters do, because you have to believe that you are the best. You're stepping in there into an octagon with a physical specimen, a man that can match you more, 9 times out of 10 can match you physically. Inside the top 5 of any weight class, there isn't that much difference. You know what I mean? They're all fast. They all got good jiu-jitsu. They all hit hard. They're all fucking tough motherfuckers. They're all probably guys you wouldn't want to mess with on the street. You know what I mean? But the true elite, the best guys, they've got this. This is what separates them. Look at Muhammad Ali. Lauded as the best ever. He went out there. He talked shit. He bigged himself up, because you have to. The moment you think that you're not going to win, you've already lost the fight. You can't allow yourself to think that. So sometimes when you're doing that, it's an exercise in your own self-belief.
And sometimes you want to just go. You want to just go for it sometimes. And the guys that really believe themselves, they're just going to go for it. It reminds me of this morning. I was playing Fortnite, and I was being very tentative. Same exact thing in the beginning. But then at one point, something snapped into me, and I was like, you know what, dude? I'm above these motherfuckers. God told me that I'm going to win this game, and sure enough, 9-kill victory Royale. Did the whole fucking dance at the end. It was amazing.
I mean, that's impressive. That's impressive. I want to see you do the dance. Do the dance.
I can do it. You think
can you do the dance? Do the dance. And I don't mean the floss. I don't mean
That's
floss.
The floss. That's the one.
No, that one where they like.
Wait, which one? Oh, I can do it. I know what you're talking about.
That one. Not the floss. Any man and the dog can floss. Alfie, floss, come here. Floss.
Floss.
Alfie's flossing over there like a man. Anyone can floss. Flossing isn't easy. I mean, is it hard? Listen, we're not flossing. We're not dossing. Listen, here's the thing. The mind controls everything. Sit your ass down, Louis J. Gomez. You just wanted to floss so bad. You were dying for me to ask you to floss. No. Listen, when you're that physically close, the mind separates everything. The mind controls everything, to quote Jason Perillo. But Yoel Romero, you could be forgiven for being a little skeptical of this fight at first, because I'm looking at his record right now. He's lost 3 of his last 4, but there's more to it than that, to be honest. 2 of those losses were to Robert Whittaker, who Adesanya just took out very, very easily. But they were great fights. And then his last loss was to Paulo Costa, which again, he lost by unanimous decision. Very close fight, extremely entertaining fight. And Costa's out. Costa is out. It's as simple as that. It's like when I went into the cage and challenged Robert Whittaker got injured and Yoel got injured. So that was that. The fight never materialized. Costa's out. That means the next man in line is Yoel Romero. So by default, and when I say default, I don't mean that as a negative. It just is. That's the way it is. The first man in line is Paulo Costa. He's injured. Who we got next? Well, Yoel Romero's right there. It was a close fight with Costa. Costa won, but it was close. It was entertaining. And everybody knows Yoel is a bad motherfucker. Right, and stylistically, it could cause some problems for Adesanya. Now, the thing is, Yoel, he's not spring chicken. I'm just trying to look at his age here. I think he's 42.
Yeah.
And April 30th, he'll be 43. So he's definitely getting on. He's had a lot of fights. His record is 13-4. So he's had 17 fights, not too many fights, but a long wrestling career. Wrestling is very, very, grueling on the body. Lots of injuries. It's hard. It's a tough way to forge a career, that's for sure. So listen, it's fair to say that Yoel, this is going to be the last title fight he's ever going to get, right? And he probably knows that. His manager knows it. His camp, his trainers, his coaches will all know. I mean, come on, for crying out loud. Fought Robert Whittaker for the belt. Fought Luke Rockhold for an interim belt. Fought Robert Whittaker for the belt. And then fought Paulo Costa. He's had 3 title fights out of his last 4. Do you know what I mean? He's getting another one, as I just said, for good reason. But if he doesn't win this, I don't think he'll ever sniff another title fight. So I think, he seems like the type of guy that's always going to bring everything. But Adesanya, whilst being confident, and rightly so, and whilst being electric in all his performances, and certainly a man to watch for a future legend, he's got to be careful, because Yoel does have that ability. One shot, bang, can put you to sleep. And the biggest danger, and I'll let you jump in now, biggest danger for Adesanya is this. It's what GSP got me with. I was so obsessed with the takedown against George St. Pierre. He feinted a takedown. I brought my hands down low to defend the takedown, and he came up with a left hook. Granted, to my bad side. We all know I don't see out of that side. So, basically, it was like punching a blind man.
He cheated.
But he definitely cheated. We don't like to talk about it, but
I don't want to taint the legacy of George St. Pierre, but he's a fucking cheat. But that's neither here nor there. It's not a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Yoel also has the ability to stop the fight at any moment in the fight. We've watched him have a few late stoppages, I think 3rd round stoppages, even championship round stoppages, where he just comes in and he's just explosive power throughout. I think Adesanya probably beats him in this fight, to be honest with you. But fuck, man, it could happen. Could easily happen. It's not the crazy thing. I didn't realize how old Yoel was, and I didn't realize how little fights he had. Those were 2 surprising things that I just looked at, that he's going to be 43, and he has only had 17 fights. What was he doing all these years?
Wrestling in Cuba. Do you know what I mean? He was living a hard life. He was wrestling internationally. If you look at his Wikipedia page, Yoel Romero, which I just was. Hold on, let's have a look. I mean, Jesus Christ. Is that wrestling accolades? 2000 silver medal at the Sydney Olympic Games, World Championships, multiple golds, Wrestling World Cup, lots of golds, Pan American gold, bronze, Pan American gold. I mean, the guy's just been wrestling his
started his MMA career at 32 years old. That's fucking crazy. That is very old to start an MMA career.
It's actually very inspirational as well. Talking of Instagram earlier, like we were, I get a lot of people message me saying, listen, I'm in my mid-20s. Is it too late? I'm like, no. I mean, I had a background in martial arts, but I didn't have my first MMA fight till I think I was 24, something like that. So anyway, listen,
if you're an Olympic caliber martial artist, you could probably make that transition to MMA at really any given point, to be honest.
Definitely. If you look after your body and you've got that. Listen, Adesanya understands reach, okay? He knows how to use, he's got a reach advantage on most people. He knows how to use it, much like Jon Jones. Him and Jon Jones are going back and forth all the time, but they're very, very similar versions. All right, Jones is a very good wrestler as well. Adesanya is a kickboxer, but you see the comparisons that I'm making. He understands reach. Yoel's going to have a tough time. Yoel's the older man. Yoel's got a lot of miles on the clock. He's been through a lot of wars, much like Robert Whittaker. I'm not taking away from Adesanya's win over Robert, but wars take their toll on you. You know what I mean? Like we were talking on the last show. At what point do you think, I hit my peak, but then I started to decline? You know what I mean? The more wars you have, like that war I had with Anderson Silva, do you know what I mean? That takes a toll. Nothing is free. If you go out there as a fighter and you're going through war after war after war, it's going to limit your career. There is outliers to that. People like fucking Diego Sanchez, who's been fighting in the UFC with the most reckless style you could ever imagine for the longest time possible. Do you know what I mean? That guy's an anomaly. That isn't generally how it goes. And if you look at Robert Whittaker, he had those 2 wars against Yoel Romero, and I don't think he looked that good against Stylebender. Now, of course, Stylebender was on the money. He looked fantastic, and it was a beautiful knockout. As I say, not detracting from his performance. But on the flip side, Yoel Romero as well. The wars that he had with Robert Whittaker, I think they may play a factor. And he had another war against Paulo Costa. That was a fucking hell of a fight. So all these wars, the fact that he's 43, the fact he's the shorter guy, and the fact that Adesanya is really finding his stride right now, yeah, I got Adesanya winning that fight.
I think Bisping said it best.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Thanks,
and
Dana.
There's Adesanya and Jones are really talking a lot of shit online with each other as well. That fight is.
You got any quotes?
Yeah, it's a foregone conclusion at this point. Yeah, Harrington, pull up. I have some right here, but they've been talking shit for a little while on each other. At one point, Jon Jones fires back at his Isreal Adesanya. The other's from a little while ago. This is from a while ago. So yeah, I know that. I guess Adesanya delayed the Jon Jones quote-unquote super fight up until 2021. He wants to put in some more work at middleweight before moving up to challenge Jones. But yeah, that fight, it's basically a foregone conclusion at this point. It's been sort of set up. The shit talking is sort of in the air, and it keeps on coming out. And the only way it's not a foregone conclusion is if Isreal Adesanya loses. If he loses, and by the way, there are guys that are in this division. I mean, he is the newly minted 185-pound champion. He might not get past Romero. If that happens, you're never going to watch Isreal versus Jon Jones.
Well, I got 2 things to say to that. Number one, remember back in 2016, the future of the middleweight division was Luke Rockhold. He was just steamrolling through everyone. The way he took out Lyoto Machida was a thing of beauty. He followed it up with just a complete decimation, a destruction of then champion Chris Weidman. But on his first proper title defense, got knocked the fuck out cold by left hook Larry. That could happen.
Yeah.
Me too, Brendan. Me too. Also, here's another factor why the Jon Jones fight might not happen. Jon Jones has been a light heavyweight forever, and he's taken out fucking everybody. And he did show interest in a fight with Stipe Miocic, So Jon Jones, being the size that he is, a natural progression for him towards the end of his career as he starts getting older. He doesn't want to make that weight cut. See earlier conversation that we had would be to move up to heavyweight. Because listen, he's fighting Dominic Reyes. Once he's beat Dominic Reyes, who else has Jon Jones got left to beat? He's beaten everybody. He might as well go up to heavyweight, have a few more fights, some massive fights at heavyweight, and then call it a day. So if he does that, I doubt a fight with Adesanya would materialize. So there is still a few potential hiccups along the way.
But I can see Jones fighting at heavyweight the same way that like Dan Henderson fought at heavyweight, where he would just come in and be his weight. It's not like he would bulk up and become this massive. No, but Henderson did fight at heavyweight. He fought Fedor at heavyweight. Remember, he weighed like 207 pounds or something. Like he didn't give a shit. Like he was
Hendo. Hendo. I was made aware of that when we fought the first time. Yeah.
But I feel like even if Jon Jones did go up and fight Stipe, I don't think he'd like bulk and put on this massive weight. I think he'd probably just walk around 230, whatever he walks around at, and fight at that weight. And pretty much, if the challenge presented itself at 205 in Isreal Adesanya, those guys come and meet at a super fight at 205. Even if there's another 205-pound champion at that point, that's an incredible fight to see happen. That's honestly one of the only super fights that are out there right now that I'm like super, super interested in seeing. I don't know if there's many other like actual quote-unquote super fights, champion versus champion, or two guys that are coming from different divisions that I'm going like, oh my God, that's something that I have to see. But that's a super interesting fight. I think Jon Jones probably can, manhandle Isreal Adesanya. He's probably debatably as good of a striker and a way bigger, better wrestler. But at the very least, man, what an exciting fight on paper.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. When you look at it like that, the way you just said it, that does leave scope for that fight to still happen. And you're right. I mean, come on. Who wouldn't want to see that? Jones versus him, Adesanya. After all the shit talk, I mean, you got to give it to Adesanya. You know what I mean? Right? You got to give him some credit because he came out here, took it by storm, and now he's shit talking the baddest motherfucker in the UFC. And he's not just shit talking, he's going for the fucking jugular. You know what I mean? Constantly. Now, here's the thing. They're in different weight classes, and it's easy to do that. Now, I'm not saying that that's what he's doing, because it's easy to shit talk someone in another division thinking the fight's never going to happen. But I think he actually does want the fight. You know what I mean? If you thought the fight was never going to happen, you can talk shit, you get that free pass, but you get the credit from all the fans going, wow, he wants to fight him, but knowing deep down the fight's never going to happen. But I believe he does actually want to fight him, which, kudos to him. But Jon Jones, he's the baddest motherfucker in the UFC for a reason. Super fights. Well, Jones versus Stipe, I'd like to see that one. I want to see DC versus Stipe 3, of course. That aside, Jones versus Stipe, I want to see that. Ooh, who's 170? Kamaru versus... I don't know. I'm sick of all this talk of super fights, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I want to see the champions defending the belts, all this jumping around. I think last year and the year before, it all got a little silly. And I feel like going forward, the UFC aren't going to be too quick to make those super fights anymore. Because whilst they do capture the imagination of the public, I mean, they're just stripping Henry Cejudo of the 125 belt. It's going to be not Demetrius Johnson. What am I saying? Joseph Benavidez taking on Figueiredo, right, for the flyweight title, for the vacant flyweight title, because that's what they got to do. I mean, the only real double champ that's left now is Amanda Nunes, and even her, she's having trouble finding challenges at 145. And I feel, and I'm just assuming here, the only reason that she hasn't been stripped yet is because there isn't anyone at 45 to take her place.
Who are they going to give it to? Yeah, there's nobody that actually makes sense. This is a quote about Jon Jones from Isreal Adesanya, which I thought was an interesting one. That's another thing Jon Jones said, motherfucking Jones, said Adesanya. He's like, well, when I'm done, I'm glad people can remember my accolades rather than my walkout. It's like, shut the fuck up. People are going to remember you because you're a drug cheat. You're a steroid cheat. That's what they're going to remember. All of the shit you've done after Mauricio Hua in 2011, no one really cares anymore because they know you cheated. You popped in the same month as your brother in 2016. That's all they're going to remember. My walkouts are going to be even greater than his whole career. Wow. So that's some heavy words right there. But how much truth is there? I mean, I think his image is tarnished for life. I don't think there's any way around it. Anybody who knows anything about MMA, when Jon Jones' name comes up, they go, well, was he natural? The whole time, was he natural?
Well, unfortunately, that is going to follow him around, and that will be a conversation that takes place forever. And I've got to agree with Adesanya there. I can't go back on my stance and everything I said. I mean, when I fought Anderson Silva, the whole thing I spoke about going, you're a fucking cheat. You've tested positive for steroids multiple times. So, of course, that applies to Jon Jones. And I'm not sitting here, I'm not hating on Jon Jones. I'm not being anti-Jon Jones. I think he's a tremendous champion. But the record shows that I think on 2 occasions he tested positive. Simple as that. So Adesanya is right to bring that up. That's all the ammunition that Israel needs to attack him. And he's got a fair point. You can't argue with it. That is fact. Simple as that.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I mean, the general public doesn't know or even care, really. I got to be honest with you. No. The casual fan, they have no idea. And it seems like MMA, while it's debatably the most dangerous sport or one of the most dangerous sports in the world, it's the one sport that people sort of get a pass for when they get caught using performance-enhancing drugs. Like, it's not like it was. Do you remember when the bicyclist got caught? What's his name?
Lance Armstrong.
Lance Armstrong. When he got caught using steroids, it was international. It was like crazy. It was like the biggest thing in the world. Like, oh my God, like holy shit. And the world took notice. And he's riding a bike up a hill. Who cares? Who gives a shit? You guys are going into a cage and trying to murder each other with your fists and feet. And a little slap on the wrist, 6 months, year suspension. All right, cool. No big deal. Whatever.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Well, I mean, in mixed martial arts now, the penalties are, they're pretty hard.
They're getting better.
Hopefully, I think
USADA made it better.
Better.
Yeah.
But like in boxing, it's crazy. In boxing, it's almost like people test positive and it's not even a big thing, and they'll just like move the date of the fight to get around it and things like that. In boxing, it isn't nearly as crushing to a career as it is in mixed martial arts. But you're right. I mean, that's why I'm always such a big advocate of mixed martial arts. And you can find out more about my thoughts on the Bisping documentary, which comes out soon. I have a screening tonight of the documentary. They're flying in from Canada to show it to me tonight. I have a little trailer that they've sent through to me to get my juices flowing, so to speak. It's fucking epic. I'll send it to you, but don't share it. But tonight I get to look at the documentary and make some edits. And of course, in that, the reason I brought that up is, I talk about, fighting multiple steroid cheats along the way, and as you said, cycling is one thing. Putting a fucking ball through a basket is one thing. But when you're stepping into a cage with very little rules to try and beat the fuck out of your opponent, and you can dress it up however you want. Ooh, martial arts, highly disciplined, structured, fucking respect, discipline, all this bullshit. You're trying to knock each other out. You're trying to beat each other into unconsciousness, right? So there is no place for steroids. But I've said that many, many times.